Mr. Clerk, time is 7:01. I'm going to call this general committee meeting to order. Town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and Treaty Number 20 territories of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas, recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. Shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today will help us walk together into a better future. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Councillor Gardner, Councillor Thompson, any comments or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Community presentations, we have one, 5.1. Jenna Irving, Women of Ontario Say No regarding supporting Bill 5, Stopping Harassment and Abuse by Local Leaders Act. Jenna, welcome. You have 5 minutes and the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just share my screen here and make sure it comes through on your end. You should see the start of the presentation. Actually, I can see that you can see it, so that's great. So hi, everybody. My name is Jenna Irving. I'm here on behalf representing a collective advocacy effort called the Women of Ontario Say No. It's about supporting Bill 5, which is Stopping Harassment and Abuse by Local Leaders Act. It's needed, and it's hard to believe I have to take your time to even advocate for this, as something should be in place already. Our ask today is for the council's support and for your support of this bill, and to encourage your support to encourage the province to support this bill as well. So I can go through a little bit about it. So it's a private member's bill. It actually started as Bill 10, and it actually made it through full unanimous support after its second reading, but unfortunately with timing, it died because the provincial election was called. So it was reintroduced on August 10th as Bill 5. And again, it's about holding, it's about providing the tools to keep municipal workers safe. So this, apology here, I lost my place. So unfortunately, currently there is not the appropriate tools in place like there is in any other work setting to hold workers accountable if they have been found to have been committing harassment. The current Occupational Health and Safety Act does not apply to elected officials. So elected officials right now, the most severe penalty that can be imposed is a suspension of pay for 90 days. There's no process for removing councillors from office if a claim has been substantiated. So this is what Bill 5 seeks to address. It would amend the Municipals Act of 2001 and the City of Toronto Act 2006. It's called Stopping Harassment and Abuse by Local Leaders. It will actually permit municipalities to direct the Integrity Commissioner to apply to the court to vacate a member's seat for failing to comply with the municipality's workplace violence and harassment policies. This again would be obviously after a claim would be investigated and substantiated, but then they would have the tools in place to have appropriate response to this. It's simple. It's about keeping the workplaces safe. It's the right thing to do. It's accountability through transparent and fair process that should exist, but it currently does not for elected officials. Our ask today of your council is to pass a motion to endorse Bill 5 and to write a letter of support to be sent to local MPPs, Premier Doug Ford, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and MPP for Orleans, Stephen Blaise. You can also find on our website other municipalities that have already endorsed this. And if any of you have any questions, I'm happy to try and answer them.
Thank you very much, Jenna. Council, first, can I get a motion to receive the delegation? Councilor Gallo, Councilor Kim, any comments or questions for the delegate? Councilor Gardner? Oh, there you go.
Have you found that this is a big issue? Not a big issue, but it's something that has been reported by many people as needing.
Jenna?
Yes, unfortunately, it did come out of a need, unfortunately, which is you don't want it to have to come from that direction. But yes, there was 4 municipalities, there's Barrie, Brampton, Mississauga, and Ottawa all that's where this sort of stemmed from. Once there had been cases, when they looked at what could actually be imposed on these councillors, there was very little consequences. As I said, that's when they found that the max penalty is a suspension of 90 days. So that's where Stephen Blaise put forth this private member's bill, because unfortunately it's needed.
Councillor?
Thank you. And I think that is the maximum for any offense, 90 days for somebody sitting on a council. I'm sorry that that there is such a need for this, and I certainly support it. Thank you. Thank you for your work on it.
Thank you.
Councilor Gilliland?
Thank you. Excuse me, Ms. Irving. Thank you so much for coming and speaking today and making this presentation. I know it does take a lot of bravery to go to municipality and have to advocate for this and garner some support. Obviously, you've done a lot of hard work, and with the election, you feel like you got to start all over again. So I really respect you making the time today with this presentation. Just a quick question about, you were talking about the tools in the toolbox and what would be the best measure in order to have some sort of consequence for actions that you have described. And through your homework and investigation, is the tools that you go through the Integrity Commissioner the best course of action that you've discovered through that process in order to get something done for protection?
Jenna?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's probably even a little bit more. I'm fully in support of the group, but I'm probably not the lead person that knows all the ins and outs of what has been some of the results of the Integrity Commissioner. So I can, if you'd want me to try and follow up on that, I can. I still think there's probably are barriers going that route for sure, but I think there sort of has to be some type of process in place, an individual responsible for investigating these claims.
Councillor?
Thank you. And I do support having a box of tools to allow this process to happen. I'd like to learn a little bit more about what those tools are. The Integrity Commissioner is definitely one way of doing it. If there's another, I wouldn't mind getting a little more information about that. But the principle of what you're trying to achieve, 100% I support that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none. Jenna, thank you very much for coming this evening. Absolutely a very important discussion that needs to be had, and an important motion to be in front of our members of provincial parliament. So we'll see what council does, but I thank you for coming this evening, and hopefully we'll see you again at some point soon.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Jenna.
Bye.
Council, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Delegations, we have none. Consent agenda, we have one item. It's memorandum from Councilor Gardner regarding Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority Board meeting highlights of September 23rd, 2022. Someone to move to receive that. Councilor Gardner, Councilor Weiss, thank you. Any comments, questions on that one item? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We have no advisory committee meeting minutes, items requiring discussion, regular agenda. First up, we have 9.1, which is 2023 fees and charges update. The recommendation is that report number FIN 22-037 be received And two, that a bylaw be enacted to set the 2023 fees and charges for applications, permits, use of town property, the sale of documents, and for the prescribed service charges for administrative matters as itemized on the attached schedules. Would someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Kim, Councillor Thompson, comments or questions on this item? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you to Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel. Just in the executive summary, it talks about many of these fees are on a full cost recovery basis. Are there some that we should be aware of that we're not able to do from a full cost recovery basis, or we have plans to move towards that you wanted to bring to council's attention?
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So at this point in time, there's various initiatives that happens within the departments to look at how they do set their fees. So this goes across various departments, including community programs. There's a number of community programs where there's the ability to play and participate is also considered. So some of those fees are not necessarily at a full cost recovery, where some other areas which are more focused on development and planning are done on a full cost recovery basis. So there's generally a fair bit of analysis and studies that go on within the departments, and they are reviewed on a fairly regular basis.
Councillor.
Thank you. I think that's all for the moment. I do have some I got to find and I'll come back to in terms of the actual fees itself.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel. I know I'd sent some emails about the memorial/park benches, and I got two varying different answers. So I just from yourself and Ms. Teekamp, and I was wondering if perhaps I could just get a little bit more clarity. In one email, it talks about how we haven't historically included them, and my concern, just to preface it, was it was thought that we were not really in line municipalities and undercharging quite a bit for the cost recovery and such. However, as T-Camp's email said, it was kind of in line, but there's varying designs. So I'm just hoping that I could get a little bit clarity of where that line item stands.
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So it really depends on the types of benches and when we look at them. So Ms. Teecamp's correct in that we do have a variety of different levels of benches and different types. So we do a comparison across municipalities, but I know you mentioned in your message about looking at other opportunities for doing for the fees for this area to potentially have green initiatives considered at the same time. But right now, the goal is to try and have them as a full cost recovery basis.
Councillor.
Thank you. I'll follow up with Ms. Teekamp though on the varying designs. I've also reached out to the Arboretum as well, just to kind of collect some comments and see if there was something there that I could add or contribute to that. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Weiss.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, through you to Mrs. Wainwright. It's said in here that the increases have been due to a rate of inflation. Are they applied equally across all lines throughout? Or are there some that have been adjusted not based upon that 4 point, whatever the number is?
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So when you look into the actual detailed schedules identifying the fees, there's a bit more information there as to the rate that's being applied. Some have been adjusted for inflation, while others, depending on how our fees compare to your surrounding municipalities, may not have increased by as much. So there's a bit of variability depending on the fees.
Councillor.
Thank you. Nothing more now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Garner.
Thank you. This is under the building division, Schedule G. Sorry, Mr. Muno, I didn't have a chance to run this by you earlier when we spoke. Group C, residential, single family, detached, and in brackets, it's got semi-row link dwellings. I don't think any of those are considered. Oh, I see what you, so when I'm thinking of a single family, I'm thinking of detached housing. These don't classify as detached, do they?
Mr. Ramuno.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, no, they're all different forms are lumped in, but it is the one rate for the building permit fee is the one rate for those, for single semis, rows, house and links. It's at $18.25.
Counselor?
Thank you. And I'm sure you didn't do this schedule yourself, but I'd like to suggest that having detached with the bracket semi-row house link, it isn't, thank you. Under multiple residential and apartments, we want to encourage this. Is this comparable with other municipalities? Is there any way, it's not a big fee, but is there any way that we might want to reduce that so that we could encourage multiple residential and apartments? I guess that might be a question for my fellow councillors.
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we aren't increasing any of these building fees per square meter or per foot. It's just the annual rate that's going up. And the last time we did do our review, I believe we are pretty comparable with our neighboring municipalities.
Counselor?
Thank you. I just like the town to do anything we could to encourage that form of housing, which would be more affordable. Under the second suite dwelling unit, we've had a lot of problems with second suites. Is there anything that we could do through this schedule that might, again, encourage compliance when people, or is there any penalties? Perhaps it doesn't really apply here, but is there anything we can do to make sure that people who are doing second suites are doing them according to fire safety and building code?
So you, Mr. Mayor, I mean, that is part of the review if an application does come in. And on top of that, we also have a separate fee with respect to our registration bylaw for second suites. So
Thank
it's
you. And I
same process.
think
Counselor.
there's a motion also outstanding about this. Question under designated structures. Do we have anybody applying for wind turbines or solar collectors, especially the wind turbines?
Mr. Romano?
Mr. Mayor, I don't recall anything over the past few years, not during my tenure here.
I'm seeing.
So it's
everybody
just
shaking
in
their heads
there in
no.
case anybody, that would be interesting. On the next page, page 2, what is alternative solutions? It's under standalone alternative solutions.
Mr. Romano?
You, Mr. Mayor. So that's a situation where I think the designers are looking at, resolving a design issue. So that's a separate fee that's applied. It really relates to revision to an application.
What would
Counselor?
be, thank you, through Mr. Mayor, I apologize. What would be a design issue? Like,
It may
Mr.
be,
Romano?
it may be a different solution to a structural design issue or something like that. I can't really think of one off the top of my head, but it is occasionally used. And it's really amongst the designers to come up with a solution.
maybe we
Counselor?
can talk about that another time. What is marijuana grow op remediation?
Mr. Romano?
So I believe that fee relates to if we need to go in and remediate a site, clean up a site.
Clean up
Counselor?
a site.
Yeah.
Thank you. That makes sense. On the next page, which would be 3, what would it's talking about sewage disposal systems. What would alterations to sewage disposal systems mean?
Mr. Romano?
Through Mr. Mayor, again, those are really the underground pipes, plumbing. So
Oh.
it's a plumbing drain pipes.
Counselor?
Thank you. That's all I have on Schedule G. Does anybody have anything else?
I only have one other speaker at this
Okay,
point.
so then I'll wait.
You wait?
I'll wait. and let
No,
Councillor
that-
Thompson.
That would be a second time, but I can go to Counselor Gallo for a first time. His name just popped up. Do you want to continue?
No, I'm going to wait.
No, you're good? Okay. Counselor Gallo?
Thank you. Just under, first, playing fields, particularly with the diamonds, the artificial turfs, and then the dome. I'm just trying to understand the breakdown of the different categories. To me, we should be not only in terms of priority, it should be Aurora-based, not-for-profit. Then it should be Aurora-based, for-profit, maybe a distinction between youth and non-youth, and then non-Aurora based, either not-for-profit and then for non-Aurora based for-profit. Those to me are the categories, but they don't necessarily slide into the fee structure. They may slide into preference, but like for the artificial turf, it says Aurora-based representative, youth, adult clubs, and academies. Not necessarily Aurora-based, not necessarily not-for-profit. So I'm trying to understand how we put these together, and then the categories are different again for the dome. Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. McDougall? Actually, Councillor, which schedule and which page, just so we can all
sorry.
make sure that we're all looking on the same one.
Page 30 of 111.
Do you know which schedule it is?
20.
Schedule D?
Is it D? D.
Okay. Just want to make sure everyone has.
Playing field user fees.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. In all fairness, I will have to check with John about the Mr. Furman with regards to the categories. The assessment of categories would be done based on similar turf analysis when we did the review, not only artificial turfs. We do the same thing when we do a pricing policy review, do comparators the best we can. So how this is defined, I'll have to get more info for you and share that before council next week so that I can be more clear of what this is intended for. And then the dome, as you can see, I recognize your point. There's a lot of different categories in there. For those, if you council might recall with regards to the dome, with the acquiring the dome and taking over those fees and acquisition and allocation of permits, we did take a hold pattern till the first year of operation, which we would do evaluation of not only the fees, but the fees categories. So that is why you're actually seeing in here to one question, maybe referring back to Councillor Weiss potentially, those fees are on hold. We are not suggesting an increase. We are completing the review in 23, as we promised council, and we'll be reporting back for 24. Part of that report back, I likely will include categorizing review. But as it relates to the existing turf fields, I'll get that information for you before next week.
Councillor?
Okay. So just to summarize, to me, it's Aurora-based not-for-profit should take precedence and in terms of fees and availability to the facilities, and then it goes down the list. And the last ones should be non-Aurora based for-profit. They should never have preference. If there's anything left, great. If it's filled up by the people who are actually paying for the facility, that's the way it should be.
Absolutely. Thanks, Councillor. And I think we've all said that at some point, I think, haven't we? Over the years. So, but yeah, if we can get some clarity on that, Ms. McDougall, for next week, I think that'd be great. Thank you. Councillor Thompson, second time.
Thank you. I just had three that I wanted to get some little further information on. The first is Schedule C, Corporate Services, and I'd like to direct it to Ms. Desario. Ms. Desario, minor site plan agreement, including stable neighborhoods. The price has risen from $227 in 2022 to $776 in 2023. Were we undercharging? Has something changed? Because really, when I look through the fees and schedules, most of the fees have just had an inflationary increase applied to them. This one obviously is substantive. Perhaps you can just explain why the increase.
Ms. Desario?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the increase was to deal with the council concerns about the application being done from non-owners, and that it would be a builder who would be requesting the application for the stable neighborhood minor site plan agreement. But in any event, with Bill 23, this agreement fee is moot because we won't be doing it anyways anymore.
Councillor?
That's fine then. Thank you. My next one is Schedule E, Operational Service Department. I believe Mrs. Teamcamp is online.
Yep.
It has to do with the bulk water fee during construction. So there was no fee charged in 2022. In 2023, we are charging a fee now. I just want some clarity around why we've not charged in the past and why we are now.
Steenkamp?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm unsure of that answer. I'll have to refer back to staff and get back to council with that for the next meeting.
That's fine.
Counselor?
That's fine. Thank you. And then the final one, I guess I'll direct it to the clerk. The civil marriage fee is one of the very few ones within this fee that sees no increase whatsoever. Just curious why there's not an inflationary increase since we're trying to have a full cost recovery basis.
Mr. Clark?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The civil ceremonies are performed by our Access Aurora department. I believe they set the fees. So I believe the answer is we found sort of a sweet spot for fee where we're getting a lot. And if we were to charge more, it may not yield the amount of business that we have been getting, but I will certainly get back to council before the meeting next week about that.
Counselor?
That's fine. Just all the other fees within that category saw a nominal increase of $2, $3, $5, whatever, but that one didn't. So I was just curious about it. So those are the only questions I had with the fees.
Thank you, Counselor Thompson. Counselor Gardner, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm on Schedule H, the third page. It's different than Councillor Thompson's question, but it does talk about site plan review, stable neighborhood, non-owner occupied. My question is because non-owner occupied are usually for profit and a lot of profit, could we charge more for that?
Sure. Who wants it? Mr. Bruno?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, the non-owner occupied fee was higher because typically those were contractors who were coming in to build a new home, then to put it up for sale versus an owner builder. However, as our solicitor mentioned, with Bill 23, we can no longer enter into site plan agreements. So we will be revising these fee schedules to eliminate those minor site plan.
Counselor?
Thank you. Under Committee of Adjustment, Oak Ridges Moraine Residential. Why are we allowing minor variances on anything on the Oak Ridges Moraine?
Mr. Ramono?
To you, Mr. Mayor, again, these are no changes to these fee bylaws, but again, we do have a zoning bylaw that does require variances to be submitted for any alterations within the moraine. So again, we see some of those with respect to additions, et cetera. So it's the same fee.
Well,
Counselor?
again, I would like those to be higher because I don't think anybody should be asking for variances on the Oak Ridges Moraine. I don't know where that will go with council. And the last one is under general fees, the file maintenance fee. So we passed a motion about, maybe it was a bylaw, about only allowing a developer a certain amount of time. So the file maintenance fee, that's per year within the permitted time.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor,
Sure.
that's correct. Yeah, it's an annual, once council considers an application and approves a planning application, we review if there's no activity, we review it every year and just require information from the applicant to make sure that they're still active on the file and whether they're proceeding.
Counselor?
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. And I do have a question on Schedule E. I've raised this before. Let me just find it. It's on page 2, and it's about the tree permit fee. I think that we should be doing whatever we can. It's also part of a motion that was passed by council to protect our trees. To me, these fees are not nearly high enough to, if you want to take down a mature tree, it's now, well, $550 or so. Can we, and I would appreciate council weighing in on this. Can we charge more? That seems like a very small amount of money and would certainly not deter a developer to take down a mature tree. And all the other fees as well, I do not think are high enough. I'm just using that as an example through you, Mr. Mayor.
Counselor, I'll get Ms. Camp to answer, but obviously I think that if we wanted collectively to raise the fees, we could put something forward and we can do that. So, but Ms. Camp?
Okay. So you mean a motion?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we'd be happy to look into that and do some comparative analysis with other municipalities if that's the desire.
Do we have something for next week, Ms. Camp?
Yes, we can do that.
Thank you. Counselor?
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's all I have.
Thank you. Counselor Kim, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I recall early on in last term in the Finance Advisory Committee, we reviewed each town department and we talked about pricing policies and fees, which programs were priced at full cost recovery, some were at 75%, 50%, and and so forth. In 2020, we hired Monteith Brown and Tucker Reed to do a pricing policy for us. And so through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Rachel Van Kessel or Mr. Ned Rasney, whoever can respond, how has that report, Tucker Reed and Monteith Brown report, impacted our pricing policy? We talk about sustainability, we talk about best practices and so forth, but in layman's term, can someone explain how the pricing policy impacted what we're looking at today?
Ms. McDougall?
Sure, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, with the inquiry, Councillor Kim, that Monteith Brown was hired as it related to the community services fees, not necessarily related to others. So that was handled and brought to council in January of 2021. Council endorsed it at that time. So you are correct. At that point, they did make recommendations and considerations for the various percentage of recovery. When we do apply consideration for our programs, for example, registered, whether it's a young recreational program or an adult program, looking at those rates, we do a formula based on that percentage recovery based on the costs of delivering such program. So that I can assure you is in this policy. So when you're looking at the bylaw, I should say, when you're looking at the list of programs and there's a range, when it comes to us determining the price that goes into the recreation guide for the delivery of that particular program, because from term to term, depending on what's delivered, the costs may fluctuate. So we want that flexibility to be able to recover it where we can. And as such, the fee is applicable. So we have the range to allow us that flexibility to ensure we meet those set guidelines in the pricing policy.
Councillor?
Thank you. And so would all our pricing be formalized, or is there any amount of subjectivity to allow for flexibility, or
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I understand you correctly, I think when there's a program, for an example, in recreation, if it's a brand new program and we want to see what the trends are like, what the community's engagement is on that program, we will evaluate within that range that council's approved. We might offer that program to start with, just to see how it goes. I remember way back when it was pickleball and when it was pole walking program. As an example, these were new innovative programs to try. Those programs would have been costed and cost recovery might have been a bit lower. But again, the fee would have been relative. As the program became more popular, the adjustment of cost recovery would have been adjusted to recover more. It's like a
Councillor?
trial and error with a new program.
Councillor?
Thank you. And And my last question is just, there's one noticeable variance I saw in the park administration or park access administration fee, went from 250 to 400. Is there an explanation behind the significant increase there, or were we just undercharging all these years and we're just trying to catch up, or was there a significant increase in the cost of administering that particular permit?
I was going to ask Ms. Steenkamp, but Ms. McDougall, if you wanted to answer.
Well,
Oh.
looking, she's on the
There's it.
screen. There we
Ms.
go.
Steenkamp, welcome. There you
Through you, Mr. Mayor, previously the park access fee was not on the bylaw, fees and services bylaw, so it's been placed on the bylaw as of 2023, and the costs are reflective of what the current cost should be for it, and they're in line with our road occupancy permit costs.
Counselor.
Okay. Thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, that carries. Next, we have the 2022 interim forecast update as of October 31st, 2022. The recommendation is that this report be received for information. Would someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gilliland, comments or questions on this item? Councillor Gower.
Thank you. Just two questions. Just try to find them. Sorry, one second. Is there someone else?
Do you want me? I was going to say, I'll come
Yeah,
back. I won't
yeah,
take, I won't take your one turn, but yeah. Councillor Thompson, go ahead.
Thank you. Through to Mr. Nadarozny, just, obviously, it is concerning to see that the surplus is $2.4 million, but specifically that a large bulk of that is due to high staff turnover. We peg it at $1.3 million roughly. And while I've had some conversations with the CEO, I think it's relevant information for all to understand, what's driving this? Are there any concerns with such a high amount of staff turnover, and how's it affecting the organization?
CEO.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. We have seen a little higher than average turnover. There's a couple of things that's a result of. Planners have been in high demand across the region. So there's a significant amount of churn in that section these days. And we weren't immune to that. So we had a lot of vacancies in planning. We didn't have to jump and fill them all as quickly during the last half of the year when we're into an election cycle. We know that we're not going to be bringing as many things forward. So the volume of work can be slowed down a little bit, and we can sort of take our time and look for good candidates to fill those vacancies. So you note in the report there is a comment about planning vacancies. And then in some of the other areas, quite frankly, it's just turnover. We're going through this post-COVID era, I should say. And there are people making some early choices about different work arrangements and things like that. And so we have had a couple of vacancies that I would say are somewhat related to that. And again, in those cases, we've taken our time to make sure we fill the vacancies with the best possible candidates. So in this year, it's showing up as a bit of an anomaly, the size of the savings from this gap funding.
Councillor.
Thank you. And as a follow-up, I'll assume that there's a plan in place to address those gaps, but we're also having some contingency plans to make sure that, I guess, the work that needs to get work is getting done, that things aren't slipping through the cracks, that organizationally, while there are a number of vacancies, we feel confident that we're still delivering the level of service we want.
Mr. CEO.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. We have no concerns about that. In fact, from a planning perspective, I think we're pretty much at full complement already. And a number of the other key positions in corporate services and finance have also been filled. So we're in good shape for the rest of the year.
Councillor.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Weiss.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. My question is similar to Councillor Thompson's, but on the other end of it. Are we having a review of our needs to replace people? Or what is the review process so that we're not just replacing someone because there was someone there before? Is there a comprehensive review of need?
Mr. Seo,
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe since 2014 or 2015, the council has required every vacancy to be reviewed, and I get a summary of the need for the person, whether there's alternative arrangements that could be made, or whether it's a position that has to be staffed. So I sign off on each of those before they're posted.
Counselor.
Thank you. And maybe this is a question, or somebody can provide me with the information afterwards if it's not available. But we're talking about tax stabilization funds and DC reserves. Are those surpluses available? Are they public? Do we have them?
Ms. Wainwright Van Castle.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the reserve balances are posted on our public website. So that gives a list of all the capital and operating reserves that the town manages. So they are there.
DCs as well.
DCs, tax funded reserves, water reserves, all of them.
Thank you.
Counselor.
Thank you. No more.
Counselor Gallo.
Thank you. I just wanted to just get a clarification on it's page 70 of 111, and it's the under parks, the St. Anne's School Park, and it says conditionally approved, and there's $200,000. Just a confirmation that because it says planned consulting fee of $200,000 to be spent in 2023. Just a confirmation that council is still awaiting a report back, and that no funds are being spent until council endorses the project and moves forward.
Mr. Seo.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, I can confirm that we are intending to bring a report back to council once we've finalized a plan between the developer and the school and our own needs.
Counselor.
Thank you. So when it says planned consulting fee of $200K to be spent in 2023, maybe it's just something subject to, or.
Mr. Seo.
To Mr. Mayor, so that was in the capital budget, and it was yellow lighted or amber lighted, if you will. So we have no authorization to proceed with the spending of that money.
Counselor.
That's clear. I'm just saying what it says, and if anyone's looking at this, anyone would interpret that as it's going to be spent in 2023, which it isn't. The other one is just in terms of planning surplus, and it was spoken about staff. Do we have a balance in the reserve fund for the planning department?
Ms. Wainwright Van Castle.
I'm just curious to see whether that's an anomaly, not just the staffing, but what does it look like over the past years?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So in the Planning and Development Services Department, it's only the building services area that has its own separate reserve fund. Any surpluses resulting at the end of the year from the other services in Mr. Romuna's area will follow the surplus management policy. So they get distributed to tax stabilization and other asset management reserves based on that policy that's approved by council.
Council.
So there's no funds in that reserve because it's just distributed?
Ms. Wainwright Van Castle.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So first, we would look at the tax stabilization, but we have a threshold that we top up to. And then after that, we actually take the funds and distribute them mostly out to asset management reserves. And the distributions, the asset management reserves is based on need. So we look at the reserve funding versus the requirements in the next few years. And the ones that are the most underfunded are the ones that are allocated the larger share.
Counselor.
And through Mr. Mayor, do we at some point get to see that breakdown?
Ms. Wainwright Van Castle.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that is the report that's presented in June, the year-end report, so which has the final results, and it also has the distribution of the surplus included.
Okay.
Counselor.
And just, I don't know if you'll have kind of a history of, it's about just over $1 million this past year. What did we see in previous years?
Ms. Wainwright Van Castle.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the surplus in planning and development services last year was $1,051,000. In 2020, it was 679,000. 2019 was 452,000 and 2018 was 463. So it has been trending up. Because we're noticing a sustained surplus in this area, we have considered that in their development of the 2023 budget, and you'll see that next week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm on page 5 of 12. And we're talking about operating surplus for Aurora Town Square. I could be wrong about this, but when there's surplus fees, don't we return it to the account that it's come from originally? I'm not with respect to this, but isn't a general question.
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So I think you're thinking more of the capital reserves. So when we
Okay.
have a capital project, we used to pre-fund our capital projects, but in the last couple of years, we changed our practice. So we only draw upon capital reserves as we use the funds. That works better for our reporting requirements under PSAB for identifying deferred revenue. And what we do is we only draw the funds as we use them. So if we don't use all the money that's identified as funding in the budget and we don't spend the full amount, we don't pull the money from the reserve.
Thank you.
Counselor?
I was wrong. So with respect to operating, I don't remember it always going to the tax state. I don't ever remember it actually going to the tax rate stabilization funding. Is that something new or have I been missing something? No, it's not new. Thank you.
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So yes, tax rate stabilization is one of the first areas that we look at for allocating the reserve to. But like I said a few minutes ago, we have a threshold that we top up to,
Right.
and then it goes to capital reserves after that.
Counselor?
So when this, the surplus, and there will be a surplus, when this goes into the tax rate stabilization reserve, is there a line item that says where each of the amounts come from?
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the information that we provide publicly is more about the reserve balances. We don't have the full detail that would be existing in our general ledger and on our reserve continuity schedules that are internal.
Counselor?
I mean, I think we should, my opinion, I think we should know where the funding into the tax rate stabilization fund is coming from. So I would like to say if it comes from Town Square operating, that it's for council. It doesn't, I'm not looking for a ledger for the general public, but for us, I think we should know where all the funding comes from for the tax rate stabilization fund. And anyway, I would like to see that.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have one more. I don't understand why the ongoing debt carrying costs would be part of corporate revenues and expenses.
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So when we issue debt on capital projects, the repayment is in the operating budget. Because these are more corporate items, we include them under corporate revenue and expenses. So that's things that aren't necessarily specific to departments. A good chunk of our debt is actually repaid through development charges as well. So some of that principal and interest is offset through draws from the development charge reserve. And there's other pieces that are funded through other sources as well.
Counselor?
So the carrying costs for our debt on the SARC and the senior center, it's always been that it goes under corporate. Thank you. Sorry, I was wrong. I've got one more. So under water, we have quite a surplus in all of the water services, including the stormwater. I think we put into the budget somewhere around $350,000 a year for flood remediation for the Tannery Creek area. it's a huge, I think it's going to take us 20 or 25 years at the rate of $350,000 a year. And as that has to deal with flooding, I would like to know, perhaps for next week, if we can use any of this surplus money to top up our flood remediation.
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we have to be very careful when we're crossing over different sources of funding. So tax funding is to pay for tax services. Water and wastewater can only be used for water and wastewater services. And then stormwater, we can only use the funding we collect through those. And as you mentioned, we do have some challenges in stormwater. We are underfunded as the asset management requirements showed. And we are taking a look at that and how we can meet some of those goals. And some of that is included in the 23 budget that you'll see next week.
Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Follow up. So for example, the stormwater services surplus, that might be something that could be applied to that because it's dealing with stormwater.
Ms. Wainwright
Yes.
Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that's correct. So anything that's a surplus relating to stormwater services would go into the stormwater reserve and would be used to pay for stormwater capital projects.
Thank you.
Counselor.
Follow up through, Mr. Mayor. Did you say that staff is looking at that? Generally, I'm sorry, I didn't get what you said. If you could please repeat it.
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we are looking carefully at stormwater. We have included some initiatives in the 23 budget that'll come forward next week, because as you remember, we had some information that came through on stormwater last term that identified some serious capital gaps, along with that, those ones, plus what we have in the asset management plan. So we are working towards trying to fill some of that gap.
Thank you
Counselor.
very much.
You, Counselor Gilliland.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. CAO. Will council be receiving any reports or updates that relates to the property at Yonge and Mosley Street?
Mr.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have nothing on the docket right now, but we will probably be rallying and bringing something to council at some point. Yes, in terms of taking next steps.
Counselor.
Thank you. But as far as the operational side of it and such, is that something that we will receive a report? Would that be something in closed session? I just wanted to know if we would get some sort of council update about the property, Yonge and Mosley, financially.
Mr.
Through Mr. Chair, we can certainly do that. We don't have any need to go into closure to have any kind of report on the operational. We are dealing with the operating expenses, including the concerns that were raised by one of the tenants. We have got some good progress made on that one as well. So, but there's nothing right now that would have us needing to go to council, but we can certainly provide a report if council so wishes.
Counselor.
Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor, as a follow-up, will this be something that be included in our budget in a category so we can see where those costs would fall, just so we have an idea of, what the cost of carrying that is and what expenses that we might anticipate to incur?
Mr.
To you, Mr. Mayor, the budget document in itself wouldn't have that level of detail. We can certainly provide it. I can say that overall, that particular building is a net positive, so it's not a net cost to the municipality right now.
Counselor.
Thank you. I look forward to the report.
You, any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Next, we have 9.3, 2023 meeting schedule. The recommendation is that report number CS 22-042 be received. And 2, that the 2023 meeting schedule attachment number 1 be approved. And 3, that the town clerk be authorized to make amendments to the council and committee meeting calendar as required. Would someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Gallo, Councillor Gardner, any comments or questions? Something else? Is it on? Is it on this? Or in regards to? Yeah, go ahead. I'll take it as a point of order and then I'll see what you say.
It's not serious, but I just got a note that, and I don't know if it be fixed quickly or not, but our microphones aren't linked to our, when Councillor Reese speaks, it jumps to us. And I don't know if that's something.
Oh, you mean from a
that can be-
camera perspective on the
Yeah.
live stream?
Can be fixed quickly. If not, we'll leave it as. is.
We'll get IT to look at it. I think it happened before at once, what I'm hearing. We'll try to get it corrected, Counselor. You know what, just to be fair to everyone, and I guess I'll respond to that. I do know that there's a new system as far as putting the names underneath us that wasn't available previously. And so I think that there might be a little bit of a glitch as they introduce that. So hopefully it'll get cleaned up. Hopefully they can do it quickly. If not, hopefully by the next meeting. Okay. Thanks for bringing that. Councillor Gardner, this is on the meeting schedule, correct?
Yes, I'm very pleased to say that it doesn't conflict with any of the Jewish holidays.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions on the meeting schedule? Call vote. All those in favor? Opposed, that carries. Next, we have 9.4, which is the appointment of members to the Joint Council Committee. Council, I have the report number one is the report number CS 22-043 be received, and two, that the council appoint 3 members of council to the Joint Council Committee. I would recommend if whoever wants to move this, that moves it with the 3 names of Councillor Wendy Gardner, Councillor Rachel Gilliland, and Councillor John Gallo. Someone want to move that? I'd ask for Councillor Thompson and Councillor Weiss. Thank you. Any comments or questions? All right. Do you have that, Linda? There we go. All right, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, that carries. We have a notice of motion for next week, regional report. Someone like to move to receive this for information. Councillor Thompson, seconded. Councillor Gardner, any comments or questions on the regional report? Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. I have a few questions through you, Mr. Mayor, to yourself. And I guess this might be moot, but it was just very interesting seeing how York Region was awarded an award for innovation for the twinning of the pump station. And it was also included as one of the key factors in upgrading our infrastructure. And I'm just curious as to whether or not there has been any additional information that's been given to you since Bill 23 and these changes that we're faced with. Have you learned any additional information?
In regards to?
The twinning state, now that it's no longer, like it's not going to be going forward in the same fashion?
Yeah, so part of Bill 23 is that it has the secondary piece in it that speaks specifically to the Upper York sewage, and that they've canceled that project and that they're going to be going down south. Beyond that, there's no more detailed information on that. We're hoping to get more detailed information in the coming weeks, but at this point, the bill just recognizes the fact that they've canceled the Upper York and that they will be going south. That's it.
Thank you. And I know that we've made an investment of rather large amount of funds as well. Any information about maybe how that investment cost recovery or how that's going to be utilized for this infrastructure that we need so desperately? Have you learned anything further?
Nope, heard everything that you guys have heard, and that is when we met with our MPPs, the fact that there probably is no cost recovery. The $600 million that York Region residents have spent in tax dollars will not be recovered, and that's about it.
Thank you. Sad to hear. Another question through you, Mr. Mayor, to yourself is the vacant home tax, and just excuse me, because I'm not on regional council, so I don't necessarily understand the whole process. And one of the things I read is that they're going to report back to regional council a draft in early 2023. But what's interesting, they said if you had the will of council to move forward, they would have to get permission from the province to designate it. So could you, to proceed with that tax, could you just kind of help me understand what that means?
Yeah, we can move forward with a vacant tax, which is probably the avenue that York Region will be moving forward in. It passed to look into it, and it was very, let's say, a very positive conversation around the table that we want to move in that direction, because we feel that putting forward a vacant tax will cause some of the homes that are vacant to come back online. in our municipalities, and ultimately it would actually provide a great deal of revenue as well at the same time.
Thank you. And I think it sounds fantastic, and I think it's a really great approach. And I'm just gonna, like, maybe I'm gonna ask it in a different way. So what does it mean when they say only if the province designates, then we could proceed with the tax?
Well, the province did move that we could do a vacant tax, so as long as the report comes and council so chooses to approve the vacant tax, then we would move forward with a vacant tax. And
Perfect.
we could also put a vacant tax ourselves here at the local level as well, on top of that. Vacant
Perfect.
tax in the region.
Perfect. That's what I wanted to hear. And I just a quick comment that the climate action plan for the region is posted. So if anybody's interested, some really great information there. I encourage everybody to take a look and compare it to, compare it to our own climate action plan as well and see where those supports are. So I'm really looking forward to the implementation of that and how we can work together as partners, because I know that there is categories where they work as a lead and they work as partnerships. And I think it's important that we do work in tandem with that. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on the regional reports from September 29 and November 10? Nothing? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. New business. Go around the room. We'll start to my right. Councillor Ruiz. Any new business?
Not,
Oh, you're. There you go.
nothing for me, except I want to thank the staff and others who have been so patient with me in the last little while by schooling me on many of the issues that are before us. So I want to thank them publicly for the time they spent with me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gillette, new business.
Thank you. I have a couple things. One, just to kind of bring attention to the fact that in Ward 2 at the United Church, there has been a noise exemption bylaw that was granted because they are going to be pouring concrete, and because concrete needs to be poured at a continuous action in order for it to actually work properly. They have been given some extra notice. So notices have been sent or will be sent to the residents this week through Mr. Mayor to Ms. Van Leeuwen. Is that correct? If you want to just chime in there.
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, the developer or the contractor is going to notify all residents and businesses located within 70 meters of the construction site.
Councillor?
Thank you. And this letter has stipulated it will start or commence next week. They won't be doing it on weekends, but they will be doing it on Monday to Friday. And it's undetermined how long it'll take. Obviously, it depends on how much concrete they have to pour floor by floor. So just throwing that out there to watch out for that letter, and I'll also post it online. Secondly, I did receive an email from staff about our resident survey that's been up and running, which is fantastic. I think we've all been waiting for this to happen and to occur. But I am going to ask staff, so through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not so sure if it's Ms. McDougall or who, I'm not sure which staff member, but I would like to see an extension on that because it runs from today to December 23rd. I feel this is a very busy time of year and this is a very important engagement piece. And, people are getting ready for the holidays. So I'd like to see an extension at least 2 weeks beyond that. Who would I address that to?
Daniel, are you online?
I am, Mr. Mayor, through you to Councillor. I will work with the vendor to see if it's possible to extend the satisfaction survey 2 weeks. Absolutely.
Thank you. Councillor?
Great. Thank you so much.
Councillor Gardner, new business?
Thank you. I'd like to say that the Salvation Army kettle is up and running, and I know that they haven't been able to get as many volunteers as they would have liked. Okay. But I did find something interesting. It was a Canadian Tire, and you can just touch your card to whatever amount donation you want to make. And I think it's a great idea. The other thing is, and I was not able to attend, it is the National Day of, excuse me, I want to say this correctly, the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women. And I would also like to thank the Yellow Brick House for all the work that they do on behalf of women who've experienced violence, which, as we know, has escalated during the time of the pandemic. So thank you to Loris Hernandez and her team for their work.
Thank you.
Oh.
Yeah, something else?
With respect to Bill 5, are you, someone at that end of the table, going to be addressing it?
No, go ahead.
Well, I just would like, it seems like a worthwhile bill to be supporting. And that's what we were asked to do. Is there any work that staff needs to do before we go forward and support that?
So I guess I'll ask, do we know, does anyone have a date of when that bill is looking at being discussed in the Ontario legislature? So I think if there's enough time, my recommendation would be is to have a motion for staff to bring back some information on that bill and all the details of it, so we can make a more fulsome decision.
Could that be for the council meeting? Because we don't meet for quite a while after next week.
Just Mr. Serio?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The bill is currently at first reading.
Okay.
So,
It's got a while.
yeah, this one, not any
Yeah, this
housing
one.
ones, but this one does.
Private member bill coming from a party that is not in government. It'll be a while before it gets through the House. So I think we have some time if we want to do that.
Would we be able to send a message to the delegate saying what we're going to be doing?
Mr.
Because
Clerk, could you send an email saying that we're going to have a report come back to council so we can get a.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. All right. You need a motion?
we need-
Councilor, did you want to put a motion that staff provide a report to council in regards to Bill 5?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Someone want to second that? Councilor Gilliland, all those in favor? Opposed, that carries. Councilor Gardner, anything else?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Thompson, new business. Councilor Gallo, new business. Councilor Kim, new business. PSAs. I'll go the other way around. Councilor Kim, public service announcements. Councilor Gallo, Councilor Thompson, Councilor Gardner.
Usual, Mr. Mayor, I got those two mixed up, so I've said everything I want to say.
Thank you. Councilor Gilliland.
Hello. Hi. Thank you. Yeah, I just want to kind of also piggyback on Councilor Gardner's Salvation Army campaign, which is great. It is Tip Tap Donate, and that I will be at the LCBO location at Yonge and Brookland this Saturday at 4 o'clock. So please come on down and see me between 4 and 6 and donate to the Salvation Army. Thanks.
You, Councilor Weiss, public service? No. Just got a few. Parking on residential streets is strictly prohibited until April 15th, 2023, between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. This restriction allows for the safe and effective clearing of snow and road maintenance. To learn more, visit aurora.ca/winter parking. Aurora once again has partnered with York Regional Police for their annual Toys for Tickets campaign. This year, you can pay your municipal parking ticket at Town Hall with a toy, gift card, or food donation of equal or greater value to the penalty on your parking ticket. Program is valid for tickets issued from November 22nd to December 16th. And for more information, visit aurora.ca/parking. Aurora's winter 2023 program guide is now available for online viewing. For further details and registration information, please visit aurora.ca/rec guide. From December 9th to 11th, this weekend, visit one of the top 100 festivals and events in Ontario. Aurora's Christmas market will be filled with good cheer, hands-on workshops and activities, fantastic seasonal vendors, and so much more, including Santa himself. So for more information, visit aurora.ca/Christmas market. On December 12th to 23, Aurora's Deck the Halls tour takes place nightly from 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. For more information, visit aurora.ca/Deck the Halls. And in partnership with Shabbat Aurora, Aurora will host this year's menorah lighting ceremony on December 19th. Everyone is welcome to attend this ceremony as we join Jewish community members to celebrate the Festival of Light. The ceremony will include the lighting of the menorah, traditional foods, and a glow juggling show. And for details, please visit aurora.ca/menorah lighting. And lastly, celebrate the new year with family and friends during Aurora's Family First Night on December 31st. For more details, visit aurora.ca/family first. Council, motion to adjourn. Councilor Gardner. Councilor Gallo. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.